One thing that I think everybody should do if they get the chance is ride a bunch of different bikes in the same day, because it completely changes how you look at your own dirt bike. Now that's exactly what happened to me the other day. I got the chance to ride a 2-stroke enduro bike, a Stark Varg, a 2-stroke motocross bike, and a 4-stroke cross-country bike, all in the same day. And now I know exactly what bike I'm buying next. Now I want to share exactly what I thought of each bike with you, the differences, and also kind of what led me to the decision of what bike I'm buying next. But first, I want to tell you how this all came to be. My buddy Soup Moto, he reached out to me and he said he wanted to try out the Stark Varg. He was asking me some questions about it, and I was like, you know what, dude, I could probably set up a ride day for you. So I contacted the dude who let me ride his Stark Varg, and I said, hey man, can we get this bike out here again? Because my buddy wants to try it out. So he's like, yep, no problem. Let's do it this day. We found the day and we made it happen. So on the day of that ride, I was on my way to the track, and it's about an hour drive away, but I also had some other errands to run. And somewhere along the line, Soup Moto texted me and he's like, dude, are we still on for today? Are we still good? And I was like, yeah. But as I'm texting him, I realize I don't have my bike. I have all my gear, I have everything else, but I don't have my bike. I was like, what was I thinking, dude? And then I text him back. I'm like, dude, are you going to bring your dirt bike? Because he has a Husky TE150 2-stroke enduro bike. And I was like, okay, maybe he'll bring his own bike. I asked him, like, are you going to bring your bike? Because I wasn't thinking about it. I didn't bring mine. I don't have anything to ride while you're testing the Varg. He's like, yes, I will bring my Husky 150. So I don't know if he was going to bring it or not. But in the case that he wasn't, Soup Moto, I sincerely thank you for bringing your bike for me to ride. That was very nice of you. So anyway, I got to try out the Husky 150 Enduro while Soup Moto was trying out the Stark Varg. This was not the first time that I had ridden the Stark Varg. If you haven't seen it, check out my video from a couple weeks ago. If you have seen that, you should also check out Soup Moto's video on the Stark as well from this day after you watch this video, because he put out like a whole first impressions video of it as well. And that was an interesting watch. So go check that out. They'll both be in the description. But because of that, I got to try out the Husky 150 Enduro 2-stroke. Now I had ridden it before for like one lap on my motocross track, but this time I got to put it through its paces a lot more. I got to see more and more of its pros and cons. In the woods, that thing is amazing. It is nothing like a 2-stroke motocross bike. And I think a lot of people get this confused, and I certainly did before I had ever ridden an enduro 2-stroke. They are completely different. I've made a video in the past talking about how you're riding a 125 wrong, and you have to ride it high in the RPMs. That is true on most 2-strokes, most motocross 2-strokes, let me preface. Even the cross-country 2-strokes are a little less linear, especially the carbureted ones as well. Now, on this bike, it's oil injected, fuel injected as well, and it's tuned to have a really, really linear power delivery. Part of that is through the pipe, part of that is probably comes from the fuel injection and all that stuff. The power valve, I think, as well. I'm not a mechanic. I don't know a whole ton about engines, but what I do know is how bikes feel. And this one feels completely different than a motocross 2-stroke. So I think a lot of times when people sort of like argue with me in the comments about my 2-stroke videos and my takes on 2-strokes, they don't realize that I'm talking about motocross 2-strokes. And they're like, well, you know, it doesn't bog if you know how to ride it and blah, 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 and all this bullshit. Okay. I know that. That's the whole freaking reason I was making the video, was to say you have to ride it high in the RPMs, but people want to get on the internet. They want to be right. They don't care about actually like doing critical thinking. Anyway, I'm getting off on a tangent. Sorry about that. My whole point to that was this bike was completely different than that. And if this is the type of bike that those people who like to argue with me are riding, I completely see why they come to those conclusions, because this one has an extremely linear power band. So much so that it kind of feels like a 4-stroke on the trails. You can lug it, you can creep around in first gear, even second gear. It doesn't feel like it's gonna stall. It's like a tractor on the trails, and it's awesome. It's really, really good for that. On the motocross track, it gets a little weird because the power doesn't like hit, it doesn't punch, it just kind of rolls on. And in motocross, you sometimes need that power to be able to punch because you need to like drift around a corner, or you need to dump the clutch and just pop yourself up over a jump. That's how we use the motor in motocross in order to like get us over these obstacles and things. Whereas in the woods, you're not doing that as much, and it actually benefits you to have more of a linear power delivery. So this bike was awesome. It's a really cool bike. In the future, I would love to have a 2-stroke enduro bike, something similar to this one, maybe a 250, maybe a 300, you know, maybe a small displacement one, who knows. It's a sick bike, but it's not what I'm looking for right now. And that's partially to do with the fact that it's not really designed at all for motocross. It doesn't really feel at home on a motocross track the way some of these other bikes do. And that's part of the reason why I wouldn't buy one of these bikes. Before we get into the next bike, some point along the line there, my other buddy shows up on his KX250X. So that is Kawasaki's cross-country 4-stroke 250 race bike. He meets us on the trails, and he wants to set his sag before we start riding. So we go back to the garage. It was the perfect time to test out this new product, the Slacker digital sag scale tool. This was my first time ever using it. A huge thank you to Slacker for sending one over for me to try. I thought this would be the perfect time to test it because my buddy wanted to set his sag, obviously. And since it was his bike, he did all the work, and I got to film and see how it worked and everything. Here's basically how it works. And it took us about less than 5 minutes to get it set up. First off, you have the sag scale itself, and it has this little wire on it that comes out of the top with a little hook. And you hook the sag scale via a magnet on the back of it to the rear axle of your dirt bike. And then you take this little adhesive hook that they give you and you put it on your rear fender. And then you can stretch that wire out of the top of the sag scale, hook it onto that hook, okay? There's also a wireless remote that you can put on your handlebars, and it's super easy to sync the two. I believe, if I remember correctly, you just press the power and backlight button. You hold it in until it says PA, and then you do the same thing on the wireless remote. Then they're instantly paired. So whatever number it's showing on the digital sag scale, it will show on the remote as well. So you put the remote on the handlebars, you put the sag scale on the bike, you put the bike on a box stand, so your suspension is like completely unloaded, and then you zero the sag scale, and you do that by clicking the power button once. Once it reads 0, you take the bike off the stand, you put all your gear on, so your helmet, boots, everything, and you hop on your bike. You can rest it up against your garage wall or something, just as long as you can get all the weight on the suspension without affecting it with whatever you're balancing on, okay? Now this is where you normally need multiple people, because you need someone to read the number on your tape measure or something, and you also need to be able to balance the bike too, so you might need someone to hold the bike for you as well. But with the Slacker digital sag tool, you don't need to do any of that. You can just literally do it yourself. So my buddy did that. He wanted to hit around 105, and as you can see, he hit it right on the dot. Had to do some adjusting. This was like the second time, so second pass, so he did like, it was 113 first, and then he did some adjusting, got it to 105. So this tool works exactly as advertised. It was extremely simple to set up. Like I said, we figured it out in less than 5 minutes, having never used it before. Super accurate, super easy, and it makes a job that I literally never do because, one, I don't really know much about it, and two, it's such a pain in the ass because it requires multiple people. I just never do it. So now that I have this thing, I will 100% be setting my sag all the time and checking it all the time, because you know it does change now and again when you ride the bike more. So if you've seen it before and you're interested, you can actually grab yours for 40% off using code SOUP, S-O-U-P, at the link below. And I believe the link actually automatically applies the discount, so if you're confused, that's why. But if not, type in code SOUP at checkout and you can get it for literally 40% off. It's a great deal, great tool. The owner is a super nice dude and stands behind the product. I can tell you I stand behind it too because it works exactly as advertised. I appreciate that. And I appreciate someone creating something that actually solves a real problem. Grab your own, helps out the channel. So anyway, we set the sag and I hop back on the Stark Varg. Now this was the second time I had ever ridden the Stark Varg, and I didn't have much time before the owner had to take it back home. He had something else to go to. I was really excited to ride it again, so I gave Soup Moto back his 150 and I hop on the Varg and I go and lay down some heaters on the motocross track. I did some woods riding here a little bit, but mainly I was just sending it on the motocross track. And once again, that bike is so freaking awesome. You can find my full first impressions on it. I made a separate video on that, but the performance is completely unmatched. It feels futuristic. It feels fun to ride. You feel one with the bike. I love the technology so much. It's really cool. I'm excited for where the future is going. And it's just so fun to ride. A lot of people say, oh, well, you know, you don't hear the engine and you don't shift and that's half the fun and blah, 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 whatever. Okay. I understand that, and that's perfectly fine if that's your opinion. But for me, I have a freaking blast on that thing. It puts a smile on my face. I have fun going fast on it. I have fun going slow on it. Whatever. It's a blast. The only reason I'm not getting one, well, there's a few, but these are the cons, right? It's out of my budget. That's number one. It's kind of uncertain whether I'd be able to race it at different races. I know now more and more it's being allowed at a lot of different races, and they probably wouldn't care. I would probably be fine racing it in the open class especially, but who knows? And I want to have a bike where I can just show up and ride it pretty much wherever. Now, I guess that could be a pro as well on the electric bike, because a lot of places you probably could ride since it's silent and since it's electric. But right now, the dirt bike world kind of favors gas bikes, especially in racing. So that kind of is a con, in my opinion, for the Stark. Then the other thing is range questions. Now, I know I'm not super fast, so I probably would be fine with the range, but I'm not 100% sure. And I don't really want a bike where I'm cutting it like that close. But the ultimate deterrent is the budget, really. It's out of my budget. Yeah, that's my opinion on the Stark. Next bike I rode. We're not done yet. So my other buddy on the KX250X, he was whining around because I didn't bring my bike. He's like, Soup, what are you doing, man? You invite me out, you don't have your bike. Fair enough, that was my fault. So he's looking in the garage and he sees my YZ125. He's like, dude, why don't you just ride that thing? Well, it had the coolant leak and I hadn't changed the seals yet. And so it was like dripping out of the weep hole. I was like, oh man, I don't want to mess it up, like whatever. And he's like, just ride it. You know, we can check and see if the coolant drains out of it later. You can always top it up. Is it topped up? We checked it. It was fine. Put air in the tires, made sure the spokes were good, topped off the coolant, but we didn't even have to because it was full. Started up, and I'm reluctant because I'm like over this thing at this point. I want to get rid of it. I'm trying to sell it. I'm excited to sell it because it's going to help me buy my next bike. So I'm like, I'm slugging around, and I started up, I let it warm up, get on the grass track, and my buddy's riding around on his KX250X. And dude, when you crack the throttle on a 125 and you start ripping, it is freaking fun. I really did have a blast, okay? I can't lie. It put a smile on my face too. I took it on the motocross track, and that's where it feels at home. It really does. When you're in the power band, you can just crack that thing loose, ride it wide open. It feels fast, it feels fun, even if you're going slow. The problem is it's exhausting to ride. You always have to be on the power. You're always manhandling the thing around. It's light, but you're always whipping it around places, and it's just tiring. On top of that, it's just not versatile enough, okay? The thing sucks in the woods. We went over to the woods and we started riding it around. It sucks. My buddy agreed with me too. That's not what it's made for. It's kind of the opposite of that 150 I rode. It's at home on the motocross track and that's it. So I'm selling it. I'm done with it. It's not the move long term, and I'm excited for my next bike. With that being said, I got to ride my buddy's KX250X. Now this is my first time trying it. There was a few things I liked about it. There was a few things I was iffy about. Number one, the plush suspension. The suspension on this bike is set up really well for woods. It feels really stable. I'm very happy with the suspension that it comes with. It feels very capable in the woods. It kind of is the closest fit to my current needs. Unfortunately, there are some things I didn't like about the Kawasaki. Now there's a couple of things, like it is the cheapest for the most part out of the whole 4-stroke cross-country race bike lineup. When you're comparing Yamaha, KTM, Honda, Triumph, all those, it's the cheapest. The KX is the cheapest, but it's really not, like, stats wise, it's not much different from the motocross bike. It has a 5-speed transmission, and it also doesn't have an oversized tank. It's only 1.6 gallons, I think. Whereas all the other bikes have like oversized tanks. So you have to buy an oversized tank on the Kawi. Additionally, it kind of felt like a boat when you're riding it compared to like Yamaha chassis, which I've ridden a ton of, and even Honda chassis. I remember I rode like a 2020 CRF 450R, and I really like that chassis. I also really like the Yamaha chassis. I have the most experience on the Yamaha 4-stroke chassis, and they feel definitely a lot more nimble. I feel like I ride up higher, like my pegs are up higher a little bit more, and it kind of puts me in that attack position more, versus Kawasaki, at least this one, felt kind of lower, like I sat down in the bike a little more. It also felt pretty wide. It was like a brute. It was like a tank, you know? Some weird quirks it had. It stalls pretty easily. So when I was doing like a 180 turn, it like stalled really quick. Another thing my buddy told me, which I didn't try out, but he said you can't bump start it no matter what you do. It just won't let you, which is really, I thought it was really odd, because even though my CRF 250F is also electric start only, you can still bump start that. So I'm not sure why in the world you wouldn't be able to bump start this. It's really odd, kind of confusing. Additionally, this bike has traction control. I tried it on all of the different settings. So like the aggressive mode, the regular traction control setting, and then off. And the strangest part, it works really well, okay, when it's on. And that's really good in the woods. It's nice. It feels pretty planted. It doesn't feel like it's gonna break loose, which is nice. That's exactly what you want. But even if you turn traction control off, it doesn't, like, you can't break the rear wheel loose. You can't really do a burnout. I don't mean like a standing burnout. I mean like when you crack the throttle, like on a motocross bike around a turn, you can't like drift around the turn on this one for some reason. I'm not sure why that is. It doesn't allow you to crack that throttle and go. It feels like it just like slips the clutch almost. It's not slipping the clutch, but like that's what it feels like, kind of, which is odd to me. I would have loved to try it on the motocross track for like a full perspective, but I didn't get to. But based on that, everything I found riding it and my previous experience on Yamahas and Hondas, I think I know exactly what bike is next. And I think this bike checks all of the boxes I was looking for, and it fits my current needs the closest. So I'll probably end up going for either the Yamaha YZ125FX or the Honda CRF 250RX. Either of those two bikes. I'll have to see what deals I can get on them and that sort of thing, but I think that's what I'm going for. So like I said, Stark is the dream level bike, but it's not realistic for me right now. I'd love to get one in the future, and I think it would be really cool for the channel as well. The Husky and the YZ are both fun, but they're kind of on opposite ends of the spectrum, and they don't really check the boxes that I want. The KX250X checks more boxes, but I think compared to other models in its class, it doesn't really hold up as well. My buddy even said it's like the slowest 250 he's owned. So there's that. So I think I'm probably gonna end up going for the Yamaha or the Honda, but you know, what are your thoughts? I'd love to hear what you think in the comments below. Have you ridden any of these bikes? And what do you think of them?